So, with the Indiana Fever deciding that they are not going to sign any more centers, is it time? Is it time to do the unthinkable? Is it time to do the unthinkable and bring back Liz Cambage?
It's possible that the Indiana Fever are thinking about bringing Liz Cambage back. This isn't a joke. Clickbait is not what this is. The Fever have messed up their roster. Therefore, this is a real discussion taking place at the moment. Building so poorly that signing a contentious former All-Star, 35, who hasn't participated in order to address their center depth dilemma, the WNBA in 3 years is being carefully considered. When questioned about it, Stephanie White reportedly remained silent. When your front court depth is so inadequate that people are really inquiring as to whether you ought to sign Liz Cambage, a player who left the league in desire of $1 million contracts and is known to be an issue in the locker room. Does that imply that you have created a contender for a championship? Or does that imply that your basic roster construction skills are absolutely lacking?
We gotta discuss it. Like, the Indiana Fever are so screwed size-wise that we have to discuss it. I understand. This is out there. I understand this is crazy, and I understand the answer is probably no. What do you think? There is some.
Let's discuss how the Indiana Fever found themselves in a situation where signing Liz Cambage is actually being presented as a viable choice. Because a squad attempting to compete for championships shouldn't be here. Ought to be. This is not the place for a team centered around the top women's basketball player. It's embarrassing. Additionally, it seems like no one in the front office is aware of how embarrassing this is, which makes it's even worse. This is the circumstance. Aaliyah Boston is the starting center for the Indiana Fever. Fantastic. She is an all-star. She is a pillar of the series. Perhaps the second most crucial player on the team is her, behind Caitlin Clark. However, Damiris Dantes is the Fever's only real backup big behind Boston. That's all. For a team that is purportedly attempting to win a championship, that is the complete center rotation. In 11 minutes per game last season, Damiris Dantes averaged 3.2 points and 2.1 rebounds. Go back and read that. In 11 minutes, he scored 3 points and pulled down 2 rebounds. For a competitive club, those aren't backup center numbers. These are the best numbers we could come up with as we're frantically trying to fill a roster place. Additionally, it seems that the Fever has concluded that was sufficient. They have given up on adding depth to their front court. There will be no more centers. They are using this roster as a time to undertake the unimaginable. People wonder, is it time for Liz Cambage to return? Additionally, the fact that this is a sincere inquiry provides all the information you must regarding how poorly the Fever has handled this off-season.
Who is Liz Cambage? Liz Cambage is, what age now, 34? She is 34 years old, will be 35 this year. She is a 6'7", 6'8", big, who in her last WNBA season averaged 15.8 points per game. Which was in 2022. So 4 years ago, she averaged 15.8. She said that she was not going to play in the WNBA until they start paying $1 million contracts. And yeah, she is currently not in the WNBA. However, I mean this when I say this.
Let's provide some background on Liz Cambage's true identity. She will turn 35 during the 2026 season, making her 34 years old. She plays larger than her actual height of 6 feet 8 inches. Back in 2022, during her final WNBA season, before leaving the league, she averaged 15.8 points per game for the Los Angeles Sparks. Completely. What made her leave? She was really explicit about it. She declared that she would not return to the WNBA until teams began granting contracts worth millions of dollars. The salary structure made her feel insulted. She believed that the league didn't give great bigs the respect they deserve. In order to make more money abroad, she traveled with her talents. There was less pressure.
She averaged 19.6 points per game for Sichuan, who are one of the biggest teams in the Chinese league. Natasha Howard played on that team as well. How did Natasha Howard get on? So Natasha Howard averaged 16 points per game. She averaged 19 points, she averaged 20. Cambage averaged 19 points per game. And Cambage only plays a couple of games. Sichuan were third place in the Chinese league. And I'm going to be real here. There are no young bigs right now. And if Liz Cambage wants to get that $1 million contract, I'm not joking. With the way they're paying bigs, all she has to do is have one good season and someone will pay her $1 million to play. Someone will pay her $1 million to play in the WNBA.
Here's why this is pertinent at the moment, though. Cambage recently finished representing Sichuan in the Chinese League, one of the competition's top teams. This season, she scored 19.6 points on average per game. Here's the worst part. Natasha Howard averaged 16 points per game while playing for the same Sichuan team. Natasha Howard recently joined the Phoenix. In the same system, Mercury, who is regarded as a good WNBA starter, scored lower than Cambage against the same rivalry. With both of them on the team, Sichuan placed third in the Chinese League. Thus, we are not discussing a specific individual who had spent 3 years lounging on a couch. We are discussing a professional basketball player at a high level, outperforming elite opponents, and doing so when the majority of WNBA bigs are still productive players in rotation. Given how much teams are paying major players, Liz Cambage might be able to land a $1 million contract. For now, all she needs to do is have one successful season, and someone will give her money. The maximum contract amount under the new CBA is $1.19 million. Teams are exchanging cash. Jessica Shepard received $1 million. Temi Fagbentley received $1 million. Role actors are compensated like celebrities. Thus, if Cambage returned and placed, she would collect her money if she finished a season with 15 points and 8 rebounds. You are unable to speak, so let's deal with the big issue about Liz Cambage without bringing up the baggage. Throughout, she has been called a locker room problem numerous times. Her professional life, incidents, disputes, and confrontations with coaches and teammates have all occurred. The Aces of Las Vegas moved on from her. The Sparks were unable to pull it off. She isn't currently in the WNBA for valid reasons. More than just the money. This is what's intriguing though. When she initially joined the Aces as a seasoned player, it did, in fact, work with a young Asia Wilson. Wilson was mentored by her. She agreed to play a supporting part. Before things finally soured, she contributed to the development of a successful culture in Las Vegas. Thus, there is proof that Cambage can be a useful piece in the correct circumstances, with the appropriate framework and expectations of a competitive roster. For Indiana, the issue becomes, what is more crucial? Positive energy in the locker room, or having a reliable backup center that can provide you with 15 to 20 productive minutes in case Aaliyah Boston needs to relax or gets into foul trouble? Because let's be brutally honest about the current state of the Fever. They had a great time in Caitlin last season. Clark's skill to a postseason spot. For a team that had been struggling, that was a huge victory. For many years. However, they were completely destroyed when they encountered teams that were large and physically strong. They were harassed in the paint by the Connecticut Sun. Other teams would have devoured them if they had managed to get past Connecticut. Down low, keeping them alive. Let's discuss the real consequences of Aaliyah Boston missing time for the Fever. Furthermore, this isn't speculative fear-mongering. Every WNBA club must prepare for injuries. Every team needs a backup plan, preparing for the loss of their top players. That is the construction of a basic roster. Boston will miss 5 games if Aaliyah sprains their ankle, is suspended for a flagrant infraction, or sustains an injury while playing. What is the plan of the Fever? Launch Demaris Dantes and wish for the best. Get hammered on the boards when playing small with Maysha Hines-Allen at center. When KK Timpson is only 6 feet tall, ask her to defend opposing centers. Still learning the professional game at 2 inches. To be honest, they would most likely go 1 in 4 out of the 5 games, possibly worse. Without Boston on the court, they may genuinely turn into a tanking club since they have no real size behind her. Furthermore, building a challenger in that manner is not sustainable. Now contrast that with each other. The league's playoff team. Brianna Stewart, Jonquil Jones, and Kayla Thornton make up the New York Liberty. Large. Dorka Juhasz provides depth for the Minnesota Lynx, along with Nafisa Collier and Alana Smith. The Connecticut Sun has several bigs that are able to switch places. Even the Phoenix Mercury signed players to replace Satou Sabally after he left in free agency. Gap and possess a variety of frontcourt options. The Fever are the only purported competitors entering the season with just one reliable center and the hope that she remains healthy for at least 40 games and the postseason. That isn't a strategy. That is carelessness. This is the point at which the Fever's off-season plan completely fails. When you look closely at their rivals, there is a story that circulates that Indiana has improved, sufficient to challenge for a top 4 berth and compete with Phoenix as the Lynx and Liberty. What proof is it based on? Let's begin with Phoenix. Indeed, Satou Sabally was lost. However, many overlook the fact that Sabally really left the team in the middle of the previous season because of behavioral problems. She spent the whole game on the bench. She received the decisions made by DNP coaches. Games were being won by the Mercury, while players were healthy, but without her in the latter stages. They didn't lose any priceless items. They replaced a gifted athlete who was unable to fit into their system with other players who genuinely matched their defensive strategy better. The Fever will lose to the Atlanta Dream in the normal season. They are deeper and more balanced across 40 games, albeit perhaps not in the postseason. The Liberty are the Liberty. If healthy, the Lynx remain exceptional. The Sparks made important additions. The Sky have talent, but they are rebuilding. The Washington Mystics are another group. Last season, they were only 1 game behind the Fever. They will be in the running for the playoffs thanks to their additions and improvements. Every team depends on health. However, the Fever are the squad that depends on health the most. The Fever may win one of those 5 games if Aaliyah Boston loses. Games. Without Boston, they might defeat a terrible team, but that's all. The Aces, Lynx, and Liberty are certain to win. 3 seeds in a certain sequence. That is not contentious. Despite its modifications, the Sun has a culture and system that generates victories. That's where the Mercury will be. People are unaware of the depth of the Dream. There are 6 teams with valid cases to be completed before Indiana, and all likelihood, the Fever are vying for the 4th, 5th, or 6th seed. And that's presuming you're healthy. That is presuming Caitlin Clark advances even further if Aaliyah Boston doesn't miss a lot of time, that is. That's if the synergy from the previous season continues and all the new parts fit together perfectly. Here's what matters most though. The reason for this entire discussion is the Fever that has caused a needless weakness. They didn't need to be this thin at center going into the season. There were choices. There are still choices. Additionally, it appears that they have chosen to simply accept what they seem to be either overconfident or have a basic misconception about what it takes to succeed in this league. Because depth is necessary to succeed in the WNBA, T necessitates preparing solutions in case your main plan is derailed. It necessitates the ability to withstand setbacks, foul problems, injuries, and unforeseen circumstances. None of those solutions are available to the Fever at the center position. That takes us back to Liz Cambage. Is she the solution? Most likely not. She is 35 years old, has a past, and has real character issues. Of being uncomfortable in group settings, and particular, she left the league because she felt the compensation system is disrespectful and Indiana won't make her $1 million contract offer to serve as a backup hub. The money is ineffective. There is a problem with the time frame. Most often the danger is greater than the reward. However, the fact that we are even talking about it, the fact that signing a contentious former All-Star who is 35 years old, who hasn't participated in the WNBA in 3 years, is being given careful thought as a possible remedy, demonstrates the extent to which the Fever has mishandled this circumstance. There are alternatives. This position could be filled by younger international players. Some WNBA veterans did not acquire someone who could offer depth in free agency. Some players have the potential to become rotation pieces. The Fever have decided not to actively explore any of those possibilities in order to truly resolve the issue, and this is what will take place. They will start the season with Demiris and Aaliyah Boston. Their only real centers are Dante's. They'll be hoping Boston continues to be well and productive. 440 games during the regular season plus the postseason. They'll be hoping Masha Hines-Allen can offer some frontcourt time. They will be hoping that KK Timpson grows more quickly than anticipated. That's a lot of wishing. That's a lot of making assumptions. Additionally, when constructing a roster around a generational talent, like Caitlin Clark, when you have a window to compete, and Aaliyah Boston is a true all-star. As of right now, presuming and hoping are insufficient. This offseason, the Fever had to be fierce. They had to recognize their shortcomings and take bold action to overcome them. Rather, they only